You're watching PEGRI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
The wheel is turning and you can't slow down. You can't let go and you can't hold on. You can't.
Hello and welcome back in. It's March 19th. We're in the middle of the madness. I'm your host Sheamus. To the right is Sloan. To the left is Uncle Mike. What's going on?
Geez, I hope nobody last week was watching, looking to pick up some tips on how to fill out their brackets.
Well, I don't think it would have hurt them anyway. I'm sure their brackets are all busted regardless.
Yeah, that's true.
My brackets is busted, and I'm still in the 96th percentile of the nation.
Right,
I'm
so-
like, how am I doing well?
Everyone's a little bit screwed, so we're not in shallow waters with a company of bad brackets, so it's okay. It's okay. Mine's very busted. Everyone that I know is busted. It's
Only 2 1s left. A lot of 2s out.
right.
A lot of 3s out. Pretty wild to see.
Big upsets. The NBA has been a little bit dormant behind the tournament as it usually
Yeah,
gets.
they actually took time.
first
Like
weekend.
starters, they actually pulled their show for 3 days.
That it happens. I think it's a good relationship that they have
Yep.
around this time of year. That they allow for focus to be coming in, and the NBA knows it's beneficial for people to pay attention to the prospects and to the actual excitement of the tournament itself, and that'll help them in the long run. So I think it's good. I'm sure you can guess what topics we're going to be discussing.
Kind of makes me appreciate the NBA games more when you do get to
Yeah,
see
that's
one
true.
televised.
Certainly the level of talent, and that's what you guys talk about all the time as coach of the show. But man, as soon as you put a pro game on, and you see the level of that talent out there is amazing.
I think it's very entertaining to shift
No
back and
comparison.
forth. It was either Saturday or Sunday. I think it was Sunday night maybe. I was moving back and forth between watching one of the NBA games. It was after the Raptors had lost to OKC, and it was between me watching the college games, and the difference is remarkable. And some of the basketball being played, I mean, it's a very exciting tournament so far. We'll talk about a lot of things having to deal with that in terms of upsets and just surprise Cinderella teams and all that jazz, but there's been a lot of really bad basketball too. Like we've seen some high seeds really poop the bed. The Auburn game was one of the worst.
Go ahead, you
games I've
can
ever
take it.
seen.
You don't have to dodge it.
No,
UVA.
we're going to talk about that. I
Yeah.
mean, they didn't play that great, but I mean, every team, every game, there's been high expectations for this tournament, and it's lived up to it in terms of excitement with drama.
Yeah.
Exactly, that's exactly it. But in terms of actual play, I'm not sure whether it may have lived up to that. But that's okay, and I don't come in expecting a lot for gameplay. That's why I look towards the prospects to help me out with that, and we're going to touch on that as well. So you get to keep that on because you chose the 2 non-Celtics in the Celtics games. That's the reason you won. It was a close game. You had 12 right. I had 11. I think we're down to 4 weeks left. So
I am on a roll.
2 week
yeah,
lead.
he's down 1. So you
game
have
lead.
10, 8, and now he has 7. He's
Whoa,
climbing
he's
up.
coming
He's
down the
climbing up.
stretch.
That's right.
What have I gotten? 3 in a row and 4 out of the last 5?
I think it's 3 in a row. I think that's what you got.
Mike forgets what this feels like.
No, he hasn't
I
had
do.
it
I
in a
haven't won in
while.
a long time.
So we'll see at the end.
I'm starting to get cocky.
Yeah. we'll have to call that. We'll see how it goes, but let's get to the
Yeah,
wheel.
let's get going.
All right.
Pick some good things on the board.
Wobbledy. Wobbly wobble.
Wow, we're going
Start off
right,
with,
all right.
Virginia, the number 1 overall seed. Mike's
Beautiful
darling.
Mike's darling, yeah.
Lost.
Still is. I still
Yeah,
love the
lost
team.
by 20 points, 54-74 to University of Maryland, Baltimore County.
I didn't even know what the school was until I
I had
identified
never
what it
heard of
was.
them either.
I mean, Kelsey, your cousin, goes to the University of Maryland. She didn't even know it was from Maryland.
Is that where they filmed The Wire?
Yeah, so
I'm Baltimore, yeah.
the Retrievers, with their victory as a 16 seed, move the record all time to 1 in 135 between 1 and 16
And
seeds.
Diane
It was bound to happen. We were
Diane
talking
was
about
pointing out to me that on April 2nd, Little Caesars Pizza is giving away a free pizza to everybody because they committed to if a number 1 ever loses to a 16, it's free pizza for everybody.
very excited.
wow.
Tidbit. I'm going to
That was
capitalize.
Bound to happen at one
cool.
point,
But
right?
I think one
Yeah,
thing-
what happened? Tell us what happened.
Okay.
What happened? What happened?
I think that's probably one element is what the heck happened.
Right.
I mean, it's a perfect storm in a lot of ways, what happened, but it's the first time I've seen that team, University of Virginia, have somebody break their will. And that's what Maryland did. Maryland broke their will, and they broke it defensively. They came out there on the beginning of that game, and UVA's offense was horrible, and they really weren't able to find anything. And their key players, Kyle Guy and Devin Hall, they were played to a way where they weren't finding anything on offense. And you can't use DeAndre Hunter as an excuse. He would have helped them, their athleticism, and then that carried over to their defense. And in order to play the defense they play, that
What
tack line
defense?
defense, which a lot of teams play, but to play that the way it needs to be played, you have to have a complete commitment without any exception to all the rules. I mean, you have to be, you got to play that to the max. Like when I was coaching, I say things like, it's not what you do, it's how hard you do it.
Right.
And I used to coach like when you were defending a shooter. I used to say, it used to be heel of the hand to the chin every time when you attack. And my players would go like this, and I'd say, no, that's not good enough. Here, the hand has to be all the way to the chin. It's not effective if it's 6 inches away. It's only effective if it's right there. So by the second half, their will was broken, and their defense was no longer. They scored 53 points in the second half against them. They were getting beat all over the place.
Virginia had averaged 53 points allowed per game before that, and then they gave up 53 points in a half.
And it was, again, a perfect storm, and it broke their will. It shows you anytime.
UMBC was hitting shots.
They were. They were all pretty open threes.
I thought
they were taking guys off the dribble. They took guys. They took Will off the dribble to start the second half. That was a key play.
They were 12 and 24 from three.
Right. The reason
it was his third foul.
The reason why the pack line defense is more effective in college basketball when you have a strong defensive team with a defensive identity and it's the system and you have strong players to enact it is because more often than not the team that you're going up against isn't going to be prolific enough outside of the arc and the 3-point range to properly be able to counter and balance it.
You got to get out there.
No, so they did both, and
Yeah.
I mean, you're saying that they were struggling on offense, and then that lead to the defense. I didn't see anything different that I wasn't seeing on offense from them in the rest of the season. No, but they're
didn't score.
Yeah, but like that. So what? Like
They
they
scored
scored 20. They scored.
I mean, all season long, you need somebody you can rely on.
They scored 21 points in the half. That's not what shocked me. It was that it was tied at half, and they were allowing the other team to take advantage. And once they realized that, okay, our defense is kind of struggling, and this other team is hitting shots, and then we're starting to overcompensate. We're starting to stray away a little bit from what we know our defensive identity is.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is they need to have commitment to the system, and that's what makes them good.
That's the first time I've seen that for a while.
It's not a player standout. It's not an offensive superpower. It's the system, and it's the trust that they have in defensively within each other. And when they started to stray away from that and try to overcompensate for the opposing team, having a great game, shooting lights out, making shots that they don't usually make. This is a team that lost by 50 and 60 points.
They lost by 43 points to Albany.
Earlier in the season, so they were obviously on. And then once they started to hit these shots, they started to really overarch defensively, sending too many people out to the perimeter to help on that.
Yeah.
And then that's when Lyles and other people started to penetrate, and then they even started to crash on that. And then it kind of all started to snowball after that. And I think if Hunter was there, I think they win this game. I mean,
I don't know if they would have won. I don't want to use this as an
they win. I think they win because obviously you can't say one player makes up a 20-point difference, but I think one player prevents the snowballing type of actions that I'm saying happen, and I don't think that
they might have started the game in second gear.
Yeah, for sure.
UMBC was still kind of riding.
They panicked. They got away from their identity. They panicked. I don't know why they panicked.
Tony Bennett points it out is that they played, and he says all season long, if a team played one big and 4 perimeter players, it was a challenge for him, and that's what Hunter was used for, because Hunter was able to switch on screens and able to move and play the perimeter player in a way that Isaiah Wilkins and Jack Salt cannot do, and Mamadi Diakite, they could not play the perimeter players. And the other thing that Hunter gives them, and he gives them that athleticism where he can score. They don't have any other players like Hunter. They don't recruit that type of player. Hunter is somebody that could be starting for Kentucky. He could be starting for Duke. He's got that level of talent, and you haven't seen it yet because he doesn't play all the time, but they don't have another player like that. He would have helped them offensively because he can find things on offense athletically that no other player on that team can find.
I think that their issues offensively were maybe third or fourth the most crucial aspect to the loss, and I think it was them straying away, panicking, trying to change their style that is literally the bare bones of why they were such a successful team.
They weren't getting open, shit.
Yeah, but like that's not the point. The point is they abandoned a style which was their identity, and they panicked.
The big thing is, if a team's shooting 12 of 23 or 12 of 24 from three-point land, you have to close out on a three-point shooter. You have to figure out how to get a body on somebody down low on rebounds. They're not boxing out. They're not getting to loose balls. I mean, they were out-hustled and outclassed.
Their will was broken.
I agree with that. And that's the first time I've seen it. The other thing I'd like to talk about there is that, certainly for a fan that's vested in teams, like I'm vested in teams, it was a crushing moment. And it was, you're realizing that you're actually watching the first number one to ever lose to a 16, and it's your team.
Right.
And you're thinking about, and as I watched the tournament,
Not just any number one,
I was
the
talking
number one.
with John beforehand, and before ESPN, there was a show called Wide World of Sports, and it would start with a montage, and it would be the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. And you see it on faces all over these games. That's one of the things that's got that the pro game doesn't, is, my God, there's people that are so vested in their teams, and they are broken by what's happening in these teams. When the upsets happen, whether it was, Texas getting beat or Arizona getting beat, those fans are devastated by that. And there's not many things in life that can really do that to you.
The players were devastated.
Sports is pretty special.
Well, it's pretty interesting because I think that aspect of it is true, obviously, but I think that might be a little bit overstated and overhyped. The media and the way that True TV, TBS, and the whole stream of channels that cover these stations really employ this strategy of tugging at emotions of people that are connected to the players is so much heightened in terms of comparison to any other professional league or any other major sporting event. The profile and the screenshots and the background bios we have on players' family members in the stands, their girlfriends, their kids, their grandmothers, and all of these things, and them building it up in the first quarter, second quarter, so that when they lose or when they win, they can show that raw emotion in the crowd and make you feel like it's that much bigger of a moment because this person cares so much, and that's what they're feeling, and you know what their story is.
Pathos, it's all about
It is
pathos.
pathos.
You guys
That's
weren't sitting in my chair.
No, I
You weren't
wasn't.
sitting in Cassidy's
it's
chair.
real. It's real.
And you
No,
weren't
it's
sitting in
real.
Denise's chair. So, and I don't know whether. And
I was worried about you. I was telling my wife, I wonder how Mike's
that
doing.
night. And but one thing I threw out to Shay was, do you guys have any other? I was able to think of 8 other moments that's happened in my lifetime. Again, I'm 68 years old, that have been pretty much similar to that, where they're just devastating, crushing experiences in sports.
As viewers or as players?
Well,
I've got both.
I have two.
The 2003 Red Sox, they were really, really close to advancing to the World Series. We had never had one, and then
that was crushing.
Aaron Boone smashed that home run, and we just all hung our heads down. And then, of course, the Giants against the Patriots.
Okay.
That was one that I wrote down, but it didn't stand out as much as the others. And I don't know if there wasn't necessarily one moment in this game, but the Game 7 of the 2010 Finals, that was when I felt like my interest and just necessity to have as much basketball information pumping into my body at age 11 or 12 or however old I was. And it was right after we had come a little short in the year previous, but we had won a championship, and I had been to playoff games in the 2008 season, and it looked like we were going to be able to do it again against the Lakers, an all-time rivalry. And I
always forget how young you are.
Oh yeah, and I was being educated on this rivalry, of this historical rivalry. I remember going back and watching Magic versus Larry games in preparation for this, and a lot was building up to this, and for us to fall short like that in the Game 7. After a back and forth beautiful series,
but did
that I
you
really
feel
believed
like
in.
in the pit of your stomach when
No,
it was
yeah,
over?
I did.
Man,
No, and I remember because it was it so dramatically affected the people in my family that I watched it with, and everyone I could tell had that feeling that you're talking about, and even though I had aspects of that feeling myself, I wasn't 100% there, but looking around the room, I could tell how it affected other people. And the one other thing was me playing a game, and it was like a youth league game. I think it was my freshman year of high school. I didn't make the high school basketball team. So we went, and there's a subsidiary league. I'm sure you're aware of the DYAA.
Oh, yeah.
So I played in that, and my team was the best team all year, and we lost 2 games all year, and then the finals, we lost in the finals, and I missed 2 free throws in the last 40 seconds or something like that.
Crushing. Eighth grade CYO. My team was undefeated. I was the leading scorer, and we were down by 2 in the championship game with 5 seconds left. Inbound the ball to me. I go up, hawk up a 24-footer brick. Oh my God! I cried. I was crying.
I'll throw out one to you because again I had about 8 of them, but it's a classic one for fans. It was 1986, and it was the Red Sox in '86, where they hadn't won since 2018. That's when through the wickets, through Billy Buckner's legs, they actually were 1 out away. I had the champagne bottle with my thumbs on the cork, pushing the cork out of the champagne bottle as I watched that ball go through Billy Buckner's legs, and then tie the game and win. I put the champagne bottle in the refrigerator with a sign on it saying not to be opened
Reserved for
till the
next
Red
game.
Sox win the World Championship.
Oh no!
Where I was when the Red Sox won the World Championship is another story. I'll find the right time to tell it sometime, and it's a long one. So
Okay. Yeah, but that's good. Obviously, I feel for you. UVA, they couldn't live up to the loss of DeAndre Hunter and to getting punched in the mouth by the Cinderella team. Unfortunately, the Cinderella story ended the next round. They lost a tough, and another example of just awful basketball. That game was pretty hard to watch.
How crazy is it though that UMBC, if they don't hit a game winner at the buzzer in their
against
conference
Vermont.
championship against Vermont, they're not even.
Yeah.
We're not even talking
Well,
about
you're looking
this.
at that's March Madness at its best. I think one of the challenges for UVA at
And
this
that
point
game
is-
wasn't filled out.
I've
either.
never seen him have the will broken, and I think what a challenge Tony Bennett's got at this point.
He handled it great, though. I
Oh,
thought his
is he great?
post-game
And
responses
I listened to
fantastic.
the UVA the radio broadcast, so they had him on after that.
He handled it really well.
But I mean, he had a couple of nice words about it, and one of them was that you can't let this define you.
No.
That was a good way of saying it. And he also said, if you're going to enter the arena, you've got to accept that anything can happen.
That's right.
Plus or minus. I mean, we have Malcolm Butler that we can think about. We have the 28-point, so like you have all those high points too. But one of his challenges is when their will's broken like that, they got a very talented group coming back next year. Most of them that are coming back.
Yeah, they're going to retain a lot of the same
Will
guys.
they be able to commit in a way after having this happen to them? And the other thing I would throw out is that, and I think I got it in my list for something else, is that, interesting enough, what I said after that game, I said to Denise, and I waited until Cassidy left because I didn't want her to say it. I said, it doesn't hurt as much. What would hurt me the most would be if Tony Bennett left, because that would be the end of the era. And it wouldn't. And it's not the end.
I don't think he's going anywhere.
he's gonna leave after that.
Listen. He played for University of Wisconsin Green Bay. He's very vested in Wisconsin. His wife is, they love Wisconsin. Milwaukee Bucks is a decent match. And also, everybody's looking for the next Brad Stevens. Everybody's looking for the next Brad Stevens,
I would
right?
be interested in that.
He's not going to get an offer after that.
He's not going anywhere in my book. I mean, I need him to stay because I'm looking for year 9 that I'll be following.
I
that
can't believe
team.
tickets were going for $10 a pop for
Yeah,
that
it's crazy.
game, and then it wasn't even close to full. But then
Yeah.
when people started hearing that this was happening,
Yeah, you
they
could
start
see
filling in just so they can get their hands on a ticket.
Yeah.
Because one day, who knows, that might be worth.
Yeah,
some money,
it could
that
be. It
ticket.
could be.
Tony was so humble when he said that, we made history in a lot of ways this year, and this is one of the ways we made history. And we're the first team to lose to the number 16 seed, and who knows, we might be the last.
Yeah, it's
I
very
like
true.
that.
But I'm thinking there's so much parity that maybe isn't that some?
Well, no, but it's just interesting because it depends. Year to year, it's very different. I mean, some years we have a top 4 team, and you're like, no one can beat these teams. These teams are unimpenetrable, and this wasn't one of those years. And,
Right.
and I mean, we ourselves, we said, well, maybe Kansas is going to lose the 16 seed.
Well, I said
maybe
Xavier.
exactly.
Parity
we had
in
2
this
teams that we
case-
said might be the
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
In this
So
case,
you never
parity
know.
seems to mean that there aren't that many powerhouses.
No, there aren't.
Right.
And I think there's a difference.
So I think
there's
more than
parity.
likely-
Well, but it's interesting because next year Duke is
Sort of
probably going to
develop
be
a
that
leader.
team, or at least it's looking like that. They have 3 of the top 4 recruits in all of the nation. So right now they look like they might be the team that's going to rise back to parity. You thought so? No way.
So everybody get your Little Caesars pizza. You got to send him for the coupon. Diane,
spin
tell me
the
how
wheel.
it
You can
works.
spin the
You
wheel.
Send him for the coupon.
See,
Get a coupon, you get a
CBS
free
analyst
pizza.
Bill Rafferty. I just want to say his little quote. He said, "This is like saying, well, one day the aliens are going to land here, and that's going
Oh,
to
if
be."
I only knew, I would have worn my alien T-shirt.
But in the back of your mind, you're like, "Come on, man. We all know the aliens are never going to land here. Like a 16 playing a 1
Yeah.
and winning. It's nobody ever expected."
Yep.
I'm happy it happened.
Well, thanks
I'm
for
sad.
all
I'm
the
sad it
sympathy,
happened
everyone.
to UVA. Yeah,
So,
I stand by all my down talk on UVA, but it still pains me to see
I'll
a
be there
team
again
lost.
next
You know,
year.
yeah.
And I'm
All
going
right,
to be better all the
prospect
way.
followed.
All right, let's go to the tournament. I saw a lot of prospects lose out early rounds. We saw DeAndre Ayton lose in the first round in an upset to Buffalo, which was very disappointing. Busted brackets, probably similarly how
Yeah, again, it
Virginia
was the
busted
same thing. I was
brackets.
trying to think back to U of A, but that Arizona game, and me and Cassidy were talking about it. Did it make it easier that it was a romp and that it was a 20-point thing happen? And it did. It was easy to having that happen. You could kind of
You had the full game to-
Then seeing a 3-pointer
Oh,
going
yeah.
at the buzzer, and same thing with Arizona. Arizona got whooped.
Yeah, they got whopped.
They got whooped.
It's interesting. So a couple other teams. Michael
You thinking
Porter.
of teams, or you thinking of players?
Players, but I'm just talking about the teams themselves. I mean, Colin Sexton led his team to a first-round victory, but then really fell short against Villanova, who's been playing probably the best basketball in the tournament so far, just out of the 2-game sample that we
Duke's
have.
played better.
I think those are the 2
Yeah.
teams. They've separated themselves,
Yeah.
the way I consider it. Michigan State fell in the second round to an upset
And certainly,
play-in game against Syracuse. So there's a lot of different interesting teams. My 3 followers, I forgot whether I said to choose 2 or 3, are Michael Porter Jr., Lonnie Walker, and Jaren Jackson. And Michael Porter,
It just doesn't seem right yet.
he doesn't
didn't seem
right.
like he was ready.
He seems a little bit out of shape.
So
He
it's not
seems
fair
a
to
little bit
him.
slow.
Yeah.
But I think this does hurt his stock that he came
Okay.
back, because the aura and uncertainty of what he was as a basketball commodity and as a
least you had
prospect
that.
before he came back, he was around 5, 6. That's where he could be drafted. But after seeing him in these 2 games, he's back. I know it's only 2 games. The incredible inefficiency, the lack of athletic burst that he showed in high school, it probably is because he's not fully healthy from this injury, but the nervousness that might be added in to everyone hearing rumors that, okay, this guy's 100%. And just because he says he's 60%, what if he is 100%? And what if this is, there's a lot of what ifs going on with scouting teams, and I think he might drop down
He's probably going to have to go to the combine, huh?
Yes, he is. I think he might drop down to an 8, 9, 10 range rather than a 5, 6, 7 range where he was going to be before the tournament, which is sad. And then I have 2 other guys. Who do you guys have as your followers?
Well, I think that both Ayton and Bamba fell, because I'm looking at it and I'm saying, they're not Patrick Ewing, they're not Bill Walton, they're not Kareem Abdul-Jabbar,
No,
they're not
of course
Joel
not.
Embiid. They're not.
No.
So that you come to that reality when you watch them. I mean, they didn't even go to those guys, as we talked about before. But I mean, they're dominant players, but they're not dominant players. They're not able to carry their team.
Yeah, I was just frustrated to see, because
disappointing.
Arizona, they've got a lot of players who just disappear in the big moments, and you wanted DeAndre Ayton to get the ball, but he didn't even seem like he was really asserting himself to get open and
I think
or
one
post
message
up to
on
get
him
the
that
ball.
was kind of negative was that he declared for the draft immediately when that game ended.
So
The game wasn't over a half an hour, and he declared for the NBA
Well,
draft.
why wouldn't he?
Good decision.
The other one I would say, I think Trae Young, I don't think he did himself very well. He had a really bad game against URI. He scored
What?
points.
I thought he was
He was
okay.
shooting pretty well.
He played great first half.
I didn't think so.
And then the second half of the first, he's up and down. And
How
that's
about
what
Miles Bridges?
he looks really beautiful. Both Bridges look
Miles
great.
Bridges,
No,
I
you think
rising.
Miles Bridges looked good. He was 4 for 15 yesterday.
Did you see the first round game?
No.
Did you see certain highlight plays?
Okay.
Did you only watch the box
So
score?
you thought- you don't
Did you
think
watch
he
the
slipped?
game?
No, I didn't watch the first game.
You should watch
That
both
first
games.
game, he
played
looked
great.
incredible.
He did.
He played great in both
Okay.
games. I know he was not that efficient in the second game,
Yeah,
but he
they
was
didn't
making
lose- they didn't
impact.
lose 'cause of him.
In the second game, he made some defensive impact skills that I didn't see him have skills with earlier that made me nervous.
They didn't lose because of Miles Bridges.
they did not.
How about the one kid who gets the ball in the paint, turns around, he's wide open, and he doesn't take the shot? It's a 5-foot shot. He's
Who was
about
that?
6'10".
I forget.
The
prospect?
white center in the middle for
okay,
MSU.
But-
No, I'm talking about
Michigan State.
At Michigan State.
I don't know.
He kicks the ball to a defended wing player.
Nah, I don't care about that. To defend all the guys that
Bridges'
you
fault.
picked, Trae Young, the sample size that we have of Trae Young in totality, this game was a pretty perfect microcosm of that. In terms of an up and down player whose ceiling is a 30-point, 10 assist, mini Steph Curry in terms of a sample size. And what he
a great
offers
scorer on a
the
bad
off-
team.
Yeah, he's a great scorer on a bad team.
But he couldn't-
who had hot moments.
He had a bad
He had
overtime.
hot moments, and he had a bad overtime.
He did, and
looks
that's
like
when it was on the line
He
for
looks
his
like he
team.
can't be dependent on sometimes, but then he surprises you and wows you other times. I think maybe this hurt his draft stock 1 or 2 spots.
Okay.
Is what I'm saying. With a player like Michael Porter, I'm saying his performance
Yes.
when he came out that hurt him 4 or 5 spots. When Trae Young was coming into the tournament, he was being viewed as a player that was probably going to be 6, 7, 8. Maybe he's 7, 8, 9 now.
Do you still
I don't think
view
he's not that
Ayton
bad.
and Bamba as franchise players?
I think Ayton is still unquestionably the number 1 overall
fran-
pick.
yeah,
The
are
only-
they- is it a franchise
Unquestionable.
player?
Yes.
I don't think it's unquestionable. I think Bagley took over first place.
We're going to see.
I've
We're
been
going to
saying that
see.
for a
No, I'm
while.
saying right now. I'm saying right now he's unquestionably this player. Maybe Doncic can make a stride to go above him. And if Bagley carries Duke to a national championship, which absolutely could happen, and he is the dominant force that is carrying that, I could see
If you were
lots of
Memphis,
arguments.
wouldn't you-
Lots of
I
arguments
tweeted
being made.
last week. Why would you take Ayton over Bagley if you were Memphis?
Well, if you look at the team construct and the system that each of those teams run, I'm going to defend Ayton a little bit in terms of how you view him in that Arizona versus Buffalo game. That their guard play in Arizona is some of the worst guard play in the country.
Almost as bad as Texas's.
Almost as bad as Texas's. So Alonzo,
that really hurts the big guys.
Alonzo Trier is an intriguing scoring guard prospect that isn't that strong, isn't gritty, has no passing skills, and gets in his own head. And the other guy that his name is escaping me for the moment, the shorter, stockier player who's similar play style to Trier, Raleigh Hawkins. A little bit more aggressive.
Raleigh.
Yeah, a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more gritty, but still similarly offensive in terms of his play style. No one on that roster can make an entry pass worth a damn. And when Buffalo, I give Buffalo props because they played a strong defensive game. They doubled him when necessary. They fronted him when necessary.
But they still were giving up so many inches.
Yes, they were. They were. So the thing about this draft is every single player in the top 5 or consideration has flaws. And you just need to look.
I don't see Bagley's flaws right now.
Well, he has rim protection flaws. He has defensive
as an NBA prospect, he has
rim protection flaws. You know, I mean.
Well, as a college player, he's a superstar. Right. As an NBA prospect, he's got flaws.
Who? Bagley?
Bagley.
Yeah.
I could see him ending up like Julius Randle his first 2 years.
Yes.
No.
Absolutely.
He plays more of the court than Randle plays.
I mean, I
don't think he's going to immediately.
I think both Ayton and Bagley are going to be sure things. I think both of them have all-star futures, and I think that Ayton is more likely to get picked high in their draft unless Marvin Bagley averages 27 and 12, which he could do for the remaining of the tournament. That's my aspect.
Not far off.
Bamba, you can say very similar things. I think the fact that his guards couldn't get him into situations for him to succeed on offense isn't as big of a problem as it was for Ayton, because Ayton needs touches to be able to show his display of what he offers. With Bamba, he can affect the game defensively, and that's what he brings to the table. The fact that his guards couldn't get...
But you can also take it to Bamba, and you also can get it to the rim on him,
he's not that
kind of
crazy.
No, but that just shows his strength. You can drive on him, and you can actually
get
it to the rim on him. He can block shots like crazy, but you can also take it at him.
Well, that shows his lack of strength, and maybe his core isn't as good as it once
will be. He's got good legs, huh?
Yeah. But that's okay because similarly he shows flaws. So going back to my fallers, someone that was commonly regarded to be by many pundits above the Bagley and above the Bamba tier is Jaren Jackson, and I thought he played miserably in both of the games. And I think that he has dropped down, and now he's going to be in the 5, 6, 7 range rather than in the 2, 3, 4 range where people believed him to be in purely based on this performance and his lack of just showing up. He only played 15 minutes in that game yesterday, and even though he shows great defensive impact and his defensive versatility is obvious, but he seems to not be able to impose himself on the defensive end without fouling. And it's a recurring theme across the year that we've seen him be able to avoid with good bench play, and when he plays that he does do well. But when it came down to a big moment, you're like, okay, this could be a problem. So that made me nervous with him. I don't know if you watched any of the Michigan State games.
I did.
Like an
that was a frustrating game to watch.
He's the youngest player out of these like 5 or 6 guys. He's the youngest player.
I think he was frustrated because he wasn't really having his way offensively, but also, I mean,
that game played low.
Right.
Well, towards the end of that game, they missed their last 13 shots that they took.
Right.
So that was just it had to be so frustrating to play that game.
It makes Jaren Jackson and Mo Bamba scouting their games. It's more interesting because your eyes are trained to pop out when you see something obviously that you can see contributing on the next level offensively. And when you see a block shot, you say, okay, that's great. But when a player isn't a go-to low post player and he's a big and he's regarded as this top prospect, you start to have a lot of question marks pop up in your head on what people see in this guy because you may not see all the intangibles defensively that it's obvious that he has when you're just watching glimpses here and there. Or you may miss a play on a switch where he denies a ball and he prevents a shot from even ever occurring. So it makes really scouting these guys a little bit more interesting than the others. And
so there's probably another guy's going to go to the combine too.
I mean, all these guys are going to go.
Well, no,
Syracuse's zone just really destroyed.
They're not going to the combine.
Michigan State was just so frustrated by that zone. Jim Boeheim.
Well, I got more that I can talk about.
Jim Boeheim as a double-digit seed. I saw his win percentage is
he's ludicrous.
845.
He's also the oldest coach in the NCAA, and Krzyzewski is the second, and they're matching up against each other. The other thing that on that line that you just said, I was going to let you spin, but is that Duke is playing Boeheim's defense. And they started playing. I mean, they're tied at the hip, Krzyzewski and Boeheim. They coach together on the Olympic teams and everything. And you're starting to see that 2-3 zones. It's revolutionary.
He's not going to go away from it.
Where he makes the wings come all the way out. That nobody ever did that before Boeheim.
It's just upsetting to us because, as primary NBA fans, we want to see Wendell Carter. We want to see Marvin Bagley playing one-on-one defense. We don't want to see him playing zone every single game.
And that's something that you can say in comparison to the full tournament. I mean, in terms of common defensive styles played, And the excitement that arises when an upset happens is great in the moment, but then you realize in the next round, oh, now we have to watch Loyola versus Kansas State. Ooh, and it really hurts. And like I'm all for someone who wants drama and excitement in the tournament, and bracket busters are exciting, but until you get to the next game and you're like, wait, we could be watching DeAndre Ayton in this game instead I'm watching this no-name school that's only going to score 45 points.
Auburn's going to put 17 up and a half? Wait, what? That Michigan buzzer beater was amazing.
Yes.
That had me rolling around.
Who were your fallers?
Well, I had DeAndre Ayton. I think he fell to 2 or 3. Joel Berry.
Yeah,
you know,
what is he?
He was kind of fringe.
He went like go 42 to like 49. Like what?
I think he went 42 to out of the draft.
Yeah,
I
he's too small.
mean, he's 2 of 10 from 3-point land and some costly turnovers. Other than that, I mean, I like both Bridges.
Yeah. Oh, my last player last faller was Lonnie Walker. He had some big moments in the first half of the first game for Miami against Loyola, who ended up upsetting him. But it was some poor moments, lapses of just poise in the final minutes of that game. A turnover, which was not that strong of a defensive play, but was more of an embarrassing offensive play. And then the missed free throws were big. And his similar to other players, he really disappeared. But it was a lot different than Ayton or Bamba, where someone needs to supply them the ball, because he was providing the offense if need be. He was catching the ball on the perimeter, but he was deferring. And I didn't like to see him defer when it was a tie game with 4 minutes left, 3 minutes left, 2 minutes left. He was deferring a lot. And then finally, once it came down to the stretch and the team needed him to really step up to the plate with free throws or whatever it may be, he really fell a little short. So coming into the tournament, he was a guy I was expecting to be in the lottery and maybe have the chance to rise to around the 10-11 range, but now he's probably fallen closer to 20, which is sad, because I like what I've seen from him.
These kids struggle with free throws.
They do. It's embarrassing.
Moments.
It's embarrassing.
It's like, wow.
We get to risers. I have an interesting prospect about free throws. Celtics, why not? Boston Celtics, we're now 47-23, I think. We're
12 games to go then.
Yeah, we're 5 games back of Toronto. We're 6.5 games ahead of the 3 seed. I'm not sure whether that's Cleveland right now or Indiana. So we're pretty steadfast at the 2 seed. We're obviously dealing with miserable injuries. We've heard recently that Marcus Smart is out for the rest of the season. It's a 6 to 8 week injury, so we could expect to see him at best back in the second round. If we make it that far, this past week, since last episode, we had 2 losses to the Pelicans and to Washington, and we had a good victory, a good moral victory over Orlando, where we were leading by 20 for the majority of the game. Only ended up winning by 9. The Washington game was really tough. I actually went to that game. Before coming in, it was very disappointing. You're seeing
you didn't tell me you were there. Weren't we texting each other?
Yeah, questionable turning into out for Horford and for others. So I was really hoping that Tatum would step up. He stepped up in some aspects, but then...
He did. He should have been the hero. I mean, they should have won that game, but
Yes,
then
they
Marcus
should've won
Morris, like a chump, goes and cheats on the driving penetrator. You're up by, 3 points? You don't need to play against the defense, against the layup.
It was embarrassing. It was bad.
So he cheats, and then they kick it to the three-point shooter, their best three-point shooter.
It was right there for Tatum. All he had to do was hit the foul shot.
Yeah, it's very true. But
that too, but it should have never even been into overtime, is what I'm saying.
What I've seen from Morris in these past 4 games since we've had our major offensive players out of the offense and out of rotation, has been kind of what I expected. A mixed bag where he's averaging
score.
He's averaging around 18 points, and I appreciate his ability to have that contribution. How he scores still unnerves me, and still thinks that it kind of botches the offensive flow. They
don't have flow right now.
I agree with that.
I was about to say, because it might not matter, and it might be, he's obviously, if not the second best option behind Tatum, he's probably the most commendable option, because Tatum seems to have real lapses in self-confidence
I think Stevens right now, win or lose, after the game, goes to the locker room and probably throws up.
Yeah.
Because it's just gross for him to watch. He likes order and organization, and we don't have that right now.
It didn't really show up until last game, though. I mean, that's when you first saw it. I don't mind what Morris is doing. I think that team has had a problem since Hayward's gone, where they weren't able to find a number 2 scorer and a number 3 scorer. Now they need to find a number 1 scorer, and there's nobody there, really. I mean, Tatum has stepped up yesterday. He looked like he's doing it.
He had a great game.
I like how Morris has integrated himself with that team. team. He seems to I see some leadership.
They look up
he
to
does.
I
him.
see the way he communicates.
more than
with
Horford.
Tatum.
No,
I see
him and Tatum,
it's
him and
not
Brown,
bad.
they all have good
No,
rapport.
really,
He
and
surprised me
you
as a
didn't expect that from
personality.
him.
Exactly.
And I think right now they really need somebody to try to be the offensive guy. And he's
Horford's
the
been
obvious
pretty
guy.
awful the past
Yeah,
few
now
games.
Scal's
too.
trying
That
to
was one of the
call
worst games I've
active
saw.
Al and aggressive Al.
Bummer, 'cause I love the guy.
The Pelican game was one of the worst games I've
He
seen
keeps
Horford play this
regressing
season.
to average Al, and
And then you see somebody like Anthony Davis on the other side. I mean, we don't have anybody that can
We don't have anyone that can
guard
defend
him. That's for sure.
Marcus Smart.
And he just blew by Horford quite a few times.
Horford's not a post defender; he's a team defender.
Davis looks like a man possessed.
Yeah.
This is like, we call it March Madness for NCAA. I think this is like.
looks like he's
We need
burnt
a
out,
different
though.
nickname for the NBA because the players that are really trying to separate themselves as MVP candidates, they're going insane. Of course, Russell Westbrook,
Right.
yet again,
6
Anthony
straight
Davis, James Harden.
Right. We'll
It's all fun to watch too.
Yeah, but you can't say LeBron is a contender anymore.
He absolutely is.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we'll talk
No,
about
we'll
that when
get
we
to
get
that
there.
segment, but-
So the Boston Celtics this week, we have a game against the Thunder coming up tomorrow. And I believe a couple more tough games. We have games,
this is a tough
we have
stretch.
games sprinkled in where we play against like Milwaukee and Sacramento maybe. So it's a mixed bag coming up. The next 5 games are going to be. We should beat the good teams and hopefully get a win or two against the better teams, depending on who plays, and that'll be a big thing for us. I like the increase in amount of risks offensively Tatum is willing to take.
It
in this stretch.
needs to take more shots.
Yes,
though.
exactly, and we've seen that, and I think he.
Why stop at 17?
No, but each game he's starting to take more, and he's starting to take it upon himself to saying, okay, I need to be the offensive player in the game right now, and
we
whether
haven't-
or not he lives up to that
We haven't seen
is
a
good.
complete game,
No,
whole game.
no, we
yet.
haven't.
Like even yesterday, it was like
He had
it was
23,
all there.
but
It
it
looked like
wasn't-
he could have had 30. It looked
Yes.
like that could have been his 32 game.
And I think he'll have
He
one.
made some beautiful. Some
Yeah, and
great
then like you
offensive
talk about that
plays.
Wizards game where he could have sealed it with the free throw. I mean, he also
But,
like
I mean,
inbounds it and throws it away.
He had big plays
throws
down
it
the
away
stretch in that
again.
game, though.
2 possessions
For
later.
a 20-year-old kid,
You're
he's playing
absolutely
really well.
you're absolutely right about it's all about stringing together
I
some
think
consistency
one
for
thing
that.
that you saw yesterday was that there are a couple rookies out there that aren't ready for prime time, and one's Nader and one's Semi Ojeleye.
Nader is so bad. Oh my
I mean,
God.
they're going to be good eventually, but
How many
have you ever
minutes did
seen-
Nader get against the
Nader's not-
Have you ever
Pelicans?
seen anybody miss 4 foul shots and 1 trip to the foul line?
I don't
was
know
2
why-
of 8.
Why did he have to shoot him? Why didn't
Why
Brad
did he shoot the tee?
Why didn't Brad choose someone else? Like, what are you doing? Nader's awful. Like, Nader's one of my least favorite players in the league, and it's so unfortunately that he has to get minutes with the injuries that we have. But I understand. But I think I would honestly prefer like Jabari Bird.
So I'm
Like-
worried
I remember
about
when I first saw like the roster of people who were coming down to Newport to practice and stuff, and I'm like, who is this Nader guy? He must be like a trainer or something.
He played last year.
Well, I mean, he was
there.
a
He had
D-League.
good,
I did not
D-League
remember
standout.
that.
at times, but he looks like he.
But
he-
2
you
of
know,
8 from the free throw line.
They're not gonna be
He did hit 2
contributors.
3-point shots.
You're not
but-
going to be contributors.
ugly,
and I'm worried a little bit about Kyrie. It's been long enough now that knee's been bothering him, and you wonder. Like I threw it out last week that I'm seeing a little bit of a change in his game and his ability to get to the rim and finish. And I'm wondering what we're going to see when he gets back. Because we really need him to be an MVP type player for this team to go forward. I really do.
I think we're being extra precautious
And
with him.
Jaylen Brown too. I mean, whew.
I think we're being extra precautious with all of our starters.
Yeah.
And I think it's reasonable, and I think now is the time right
Let's
now
hope.
to say, hey, Tatum, you need to take 15 plus shots a game. And okay, Marcus Morris, let's see how consistently you can lead.
disappointment
It's just
was-
tough because this time of year there's a lot of teams that are sort of hitting their stride. You know, they're sort of going for it, and we just seem to have
Well, the
really.
health is
Well, I
limiting
think
it,
another.
of
We're
course,
talking
but-
about the flow. I was disappointed in how Rozier played.
I was too.
Yeah, because I just don't think I mean, Smart has command of the offense. He has command of the flow of the offense. Rozier should, and he doesn't. And that's what they said before. And I was probably wrong about that, where he's not quite ready to lead a team because he doesn't really, as a point guard, he
He's
doesn't
not ready
get them into
to.
things.
He's not
well.
ready to lead this team. I think the floor opens up a lot for him when
Yeah.
he's got Kyrie
But they
and
don't have
and
that flow
Jalen
right
out
now,
there.
and they need somebody to give them that flow. I think Marcus Smart was giving them that throw. Kyrie, I thought the beginning of that game yesterday, they looked pretty good, and that starting team didn't look bad. You know, Horford and Morris and Tatum and Rozier and whoever the 5th guy was on the floor, I'm sure it was a good player. They looked decent, and then
I've liked
went downhill.
what I've seen from Monroe in the past couple games as well.
Yeah, but he had his pocket picked 2 or 3 times bad.
Yeah.
He had a couple of bad defensive
it's a mixed bag with him. I mean, defense,
but he can score.
Defensively, he's never going to be the player that we want out there as a 5, but he offers something that is good in terms of a secondary offense creator that can kind of parallel the same schemes that you have when Horford's on the floor.
Sloan's right on target with Aaron Baines. I mean, he's a. I can't believe he created a foul on a jump ball, huh? And he did.
He gets 3 fouls in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
But
Anthony Davis, if Davis wanted him out of that game,
get called for a foul while he's jumping on the jump ball.
I noticed though, that Greg Monroe, he enjoys driving over posting up a lot of the time.
Yeah, he likes facing up
With
because
his body type,
well, it's
you know?
interesting because I think that he likes being able to like see around him, see the floor, survey where the his teammates are going to be, because I think his ability to distribute, he knows that that's a weapon that he has, and he's trying to be able to use all the tools that he has. And I don't think for a big man in the face up with 14 feet out, I don't think he has that terrible of a handle and his ability to go from handle to pass or handle and then turn into a back down.
I just wish he had a better touch
Yes.
when he is 6 feet, with his back turned to the basket, because he's got that body type where nobody's going to get close to that hook.
Yeah.
A little jump hook, he'd be great.
Should be interesting. We'll have to see how we play against the Thunder. I don't know who's going to play and who's going to be there. Hopefully Al can provide a big game because we definitely need it from him. But I think that's all.
All right, a little NBA.
Yep.
Nice
All NBA
defense.
defensive team.
You're like 4 for 4 or 5 for 5 over there. It's one of the best spins of the
What can I
year.
say? March Madness.
All right, so all NBA defensive teams.
Contagious.
There's 2 teams. I'm just going to read off my teams. Center for my all NBA defensive team is Joel Embiid. At the forward spots, I have Giannis and Horford. And then at the guard spots, I have Paul George and Marcus Smart. And then on the second team, I have Gobert at center. Probably would have been on the first team if he played enough games, but he hasn't played enough games. And then I have Anthony Davis and Jimmy Butler on the forward spots, and Chris Paul. And then I really struggled to find. I would have put Roberson here if he played enough games. Obviously, he's hurt. I gave Klay Thompson some defensive love as a defensive second team. So those are my 10.
A lot
those are my
of
two
the
teams.
same ones. We both got Marcus Smart, but he's really risen to the top as a defender.
All 3 of us did.
I got Oladipo.
I thought in the beginning of the year he definitely had the case, but it's since regressed a little bit.
Okay.
And,
when you're looking for, I like Chris Dunn a lot.
Me too.
I think LeBron. You're still going to say LeBron's a strong defender.
But because of the inconsistencies with this motivation.
Did you say Rudy Gobert or?
Gobert is my second team center.
Okay.
Yep.
I had Embiid as my first.
Gobert might be the defensive player of the year this year.
Yeah, but I don't think he's going to play enough games.
I was thinking Smart if he had played enough games.
Yeah.
I think he was really established.
Well, I have
Embiid.
Gobert on my all first team.
Well,
but if he
plays every game, he's going to only play like 57 games.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
So I might be with you, but I might put Anthony Davis on my first and then Embiid on my second. Because Embiid was so it's tough for the centers. I think it should be like a front court and a back court for the defense. I think it should, because I don't think centers and forwards have that much of a difference anymore. It's it's really all positions.
They're a lot less stringent with the
arbitrary
defensive teams
these
than
days.
the All NBA teams.
I think it should be 2 guards and then 3 front court
That's
members.
kind of how I looked at it.
Because I have Horford as one of the forwards on my first team, and I also gave Klay Thompson some love, but I got him on the first team. Donovan Mitchell. How about that? He's played a really, really great defensive year.
Yeah. He was making my
It's
MVP
tough.
list
It's tough with the guards. Danny Green is always a very good defender. He could be a first or second. Yeah, he's unexciting.
The guards really start to dwindle.
I think we got him covered.
I think we all know Draymond Green is going to get love out of first or second.
He's not a down year.
I thought about that.
Not
just couldn't do
defensively.
it. I couldn't put Draymond Green on those 2 teams.
No, he's not.
I don't see him play.
He's not a better defender this year than Jimmy
But he'll
Butler,
get it.
Anthony Davis, Rudy
He'll get
Gobert,
it.
Giannis, Horford, or Embiid. He's not a better defender.
So I have Giannis. Butler's missed games too, but I have him on my second.
But I think he's played enough to build up a reputation that he deserves to
And
be
then,
on.
of
I mean,
course,
if he
Smart.
played enough games, he would definitely be on the
Smart
first
was a
team.
fringe candidate last year. He got like 7 votes or
Right.
something. He was real close.
Without Avery Bradley and our defense being literally the number 1 defense all year.
I think without this thumb thing, he was a lock.
I think
for
there
at
was
least a second.
I think there was like maybe a week where we weren't the top defensive team in the league, and I think that respect is due. And because Horford isn't the perfect defender, I think that's going to maybe help Smart a little bit in terms of an argument for him to be able to make this team. And I think that both have a perfectly understandable case to be on either one of the
How
teams.
do you like Serge Ibaka?
I think he's tailed off. I think he's a little bit slow.
Because I'm just thinking that Toronto is on such an upswing. I mean, you're almost going to include somebody from that team in every list you're having right now. They got close to the same record as Houston right now. Really.
They're playing well. They're a good team up and down. They have good chemistry. They have good contribution from all their players. So
they're a good team defense.
Right.
And then they're just such great scorers.
I mean, like Serge Ibaca's a good secondary rim protector, but I don't think he warrants a spot in this team. I mean, you could argue basically a similar argument, like Capella probably deserves consideration over him. So it's similar, but I wouldn't put him on the same level.
Yeah. Speaking of the Raptors, how about Dwayne Casey's the newest person to complain about the refs, and Alvin Gentry?
Yeah, I don't understand that.
Well, it's actually pretty funny. So
they got to do it.
I mean, the refs have been bad, and historically, coaches do this around this time of year.
About Davis not getting calls when he gets more fouls called on him than anybody other than Cousins. Him and Cousins together, they have 15 fouls a game called against those two. They're the highest in the league.
Embiid has the most fouls called on in the league.
I think it's Cousins, and he's out. And then maybe in third is probably Davis.
Okay. It's funny because I agree with both Gentry and with Casey about the refereeing case that they're trying to argue.
Seems like an odd time to do it.
Exactly, that's the point. But the point that's funny is that to go full circle is the refereeing in the tournament has been awful, has been really miserable. Yeah. Way too many charge calls. They botch a lot of inbounds calls. Way too many replay reviews.
The replays are often wrong.
And it kind of makes me when I was tuning back and forth watching NBA games, watching college game, I was like, oh, this refereeing's a lot better. They're calling stuff that makes sense a little bit. So it's funny how you consider it in retrospect to what the other options might be for the referees to referee this league, and they're doing the best they can. It may not be perfect. Maybe Gentry.
Maybe we should have the NBA players and coaches watch some NCAA.
Then they'll realize they got it good. But so
I'm always going to be on the referee's side. I was an official myself, and
it's hard.
And I know an NCAA official that does the final, Mike Stevens. He's from Rhode Island. Dan knows him real well, and he's a great official. I mean, I know some great officials, and there'll be games when you guys would watch him and you would say how bad he is.
A lot of analysts say that coaches do this around this time of year or closer to the playoffs to buy calls because
they're stupid. Spin the wheel.
Kerr did it. Lou did it. Blatt. Remember Fizdale?
Yeah, I hope Lou gets better. He's taking an indefinite leave. Your first repeat.
Yeah, you jinxed me.
Well, you only got so many left now. I don't see it.
Just go to risers. Okay. Yeah. All right. Prospect risers for the tournament. I got 3 guys. The 2 that I'm less excited than one are Zaire Smith, point guard, shooting guard, real young guy, just turned 19 on Texas Tech, 6'5", 200-pound guy with a 6'10" wingspan.
It was always all about the excitement.
Yes, but he's projected to probably be in the draft next year. He's ranked in the top 10 of the 2019 draft. I'm thinking maybe if he has a big enough run in this tournament, maybe he'll consider entering to this draft if he thinks he has lottery consideration. So that's something interesting to pay attention to. Michael or Mikal Bridges,
yes.
It's shifted around a lot. The 22-year-old on Villanova has really been remarkable. He looks like he's going to fit in perfectly no matter where he goes. His ability to be...
He's a little undersized, do you think? At 6'7" and thin?
He's 6'7", but I think he'll put on some weight. He's 190 right now, but if he gets up to 215, 220 at 6'7", that's perfect. He has a 7-foot wingspan. He's quick, he's shifty, so he's a defensive specialist, and he is efficient. He shoots 52, 44, and 85 on the season. He has a 27.5 PR, which I know is sketchy, especially to do in terms of college players, but that would be a top 5 PR in the league. I think he has potential to be a Robert Covington, Chris Middleton type.
Jabari Parker?
He's much better defender.
Okay.
He had an absolutely nuclear game against Alabama in the second round.
Deadspin had an article, Alabama is dead and Mikal Bridges killed them.
Yes, that is what happened. He averages 18 and 5 rebounds on the season. I really like what I've seen from him. I think that he's a player that has jumped both Michael Porter, and I could hear an argument for him over Jaren Jackson. I think Jaren Jackson will still probably get selected over him just based on the larger sample size of the complete season, but and based off of age and projection forward, seeing how young Jaren Jackson is. Yeah. But I think that these guys, I think Mikal Bridges was a guy around 11, 12 that I think right now is right around the 6 range for me.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what he deserves.
He just looks like an NBA-ready wing.
He deserves to be
looks like he's going
to
immediately
one guy that I think moved into the first round and maybe keep moving up, and I never really liked, but you've got to say say that Grayson Allen is looking like a player.
He looks
and,
good.
And Grayson Allen's looking like Booker. He's looking like somebody
does.
that can
He does.
really shoot
He does.
and can really play, and he's got all that baggage with him.
been aggressive defensively,
But
too,
I
in
think
these
he's rising, and you're seeing him now be someone that can score 25 in these games and give that team a lot. I question his leadership.
Something you
question
said
his
earlier
baggage.
this season is whether or not he would be able to contribute in a scoring manner without taking away from his team offense, and we've seen him do that in these games.
So I think he's rising.
I agree. I had him on a fringe of a first round before the tournament, and I think maybe he's risen 5 or so spots. You could see him getting drafted in the higher 20s now, maybe, depending on how deep of a run they make, but I think that's perfectly reasonable. My favorite, well, you can share a player, and then I'll do
How
my final
about
play.
John Elmore from Marshall?
Yeah. He's not
He's
gonna-
dropping
second
30
round.
points.
Second round.
6'3", 185. Looks like he's got a dad bod, but he could play.
Are you going to say Mike Dom now? Are you going to say Mike
No,
Dom?
no.
How about Cody Martin? You guys like him at
I
all?
don't know who that is.
He's from Nevada. He's one of the Martin
I
twins.
didn't watch. I watched the
They're a
Nevada
fun team to
Texas
watch.
game.
Again,
Of
they
course,
got that-
Jalen Brunson is like one of my
They got that
favorite
Jordan
players.
Caroline.
He looks
I told you, he's like Fareed out there. He's a real. He's really go. They're not a
So-
bad team to watch.
My favorite player in the entire tournament so far has been Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. I think he looks remarkable coming into this.
That's Kentucky?
Yes, coming into this tournament, he was projected to be right on the fringe of the lottery, a 14, 15, 13, around there, right on the fringe of being outside the lottery player. Just what I've seen so far from these two games, I would take him over Trae Young.
It looks like that could be a matchup, Kentucky-Nevada. It looks like that could happen.
Yep, I think so as well. I think that you could make a good argument for him or Colin Sexton. I think he's rising up into that 7-8 range.
I have Sexton on my risers.
He's a 6'6", 180. He has a 7-foot wingspan. He's like Michael Carter-Williams if he was smooth, or he's a stronger Sean Livingston. He's a faster and more athletic Kyle Anderson if he had point guard skills. The tools that this player is showing and his rise. Earlier in the season, he was only playing around 25 minutes a game, and he was not scoring much. He was only scoring around like 9 points a game in the first month or so, but since then he's been scoring 18 points a game. He's a contributor at multiple levels. He can defend 1 through 3. I see a complete package from him. The big drawback right now is he doesn't have the necessary range to extend to 3, especially in the league, but he's shown efficiency from there. He averages under a 3-point make per game. He averages around 0.8, 0.7 from threes, but he's shooting above 40%.
And it looks like he could get the stage because that South and they're all gone. I mean, the number 1 seeds are gone. You're looking at very high seeds almost across the board.
That's a Final Four team. I think Shu in Final Four team,
so he's gonna
unless
get
something
the
weird
stage.
happens. And to speak on what you said before, on the majority of the players in the college circuit really struggling from the free throw line. He is an anomaly of this. He has 6 games this season where he's had more than 10 free throw attempts in the game. He's shooting 82% from the field, from the free throw line. In the charity stripe, in the 2 games so far in this tournament, he shot over 10 in one, and I think he shot 8 in the other. He made all free throw in the 8 game, and he made close. I think he had 9 out of 10 in the game before that.
82 in NCAA is like 94
Yes.
in the NBA.
He is
Like,
remarkable.
You don't see people shooting 90% in the NCAA.
I mean, and a big thing that scouts say when they're discussing how jump shots will trend and how they'll transition to the NBA and to the next level, it's been this weird kind of discussion that free throw percentage is a greater attribute in terms of judging 3-point percentage at the next level than 3-point percentage is in the college. I don't know whether or not I believe that. I think there's a lot of noise to that, but if that's true, and on top of the fact that Shea Gilgeous has a good 3-point percentage to begin with, I think that he's going to have no
think
problem.
it's time.
extending
I
his
think it's
range.
composure.
My brother Dan was throwing this out, and I think it's time for the NCAA to move that line back.
I think so. They should too.
They should move that line back, and they should
Absolutely.
move it. They should move it back almost to where the pros are.
I don't remember in the 80s and 90s watching kids doing these windmill dunks in transition.
Yeah.
I mean, these kids
Robert
are
Williams.
just such
Did you see Zion Williamson's between the leg attempt?
humongous.
Yeah.
Was that amazing? Did you see it?
Between leg
He missed
attempt?
it. He missed it. He missed. But it was a 360 going between his legs
So-
on the 360 turn.
So you must
I
not
didn't
have
see
seen
that.
him do the 360 in between legs make.
No, I didn't see
Because
that.
he made it in the game already. He's already made
Quite a
it.
dunk.
He's remarkable.
That's a dunk contest dunk. I don't know
Oh
anybody
yeah,
else
he's
that
a
does
dunk
that
contest
one.
waiting to happen.
Going back to Shea, I'm really excited for him. I have the 7th pick in the My Wheelhouse Dynasty Fantasy League, and I depending on where he lands, I might be looking at him. He's really interesting. He's crafty. He had big games in the tournament so far. He had 29, 7, and 3 in the SEC championship.
Let's hope he's not a Malik
versus
Monk.
Tennessee. I think his skills translate more readily, and he's proven that he can contribute on the defensive end. He averages close to 2 steals a game, and he shuts down positions 1 through 3. I think he's a great player to watch, and it's weird because it's commonly accepted that his teammate Kevin Knox is right above him in terms of a hair. for the outlook in the league. But I don't see it that way. I think he's much more dependable.
Watch out for my Gonzaga players. Gonzaga's got Killian Tilly, Zach Norvell.
Killian Tilly crapped the bed last
Zach
game.
Norvell was 6 of 11 from three-point land versus Ohio State. 12 rebounds, 5 assists. He looked great.
All right, so let's
He's skinny, but he's good.
let's break down how we can finish this tournament, and then we'll call it quits. So it's not on the board. We're just gonna leave from there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there you go. Adjust your brackets. So we got the Sweet 16. I have Kentucky and Loyola moving forward. I think Loyola will keep the Cinderella
I haven't
story
watched
alive.
Nevada yet, though. Nevada's worth watching.
I watched them in the first round against Texas, and I was disappointed that they couldn't. Texas couldn't close them out. They had a
Kentucky's
strong
hitting its stride
right.
now.
I had both Xavier and Texas A&M moving forward. I think
Xavier's not moving forward.
Oh, not Xavier. I'm sorry.
Texas A&M looks strong. They're a big team.
Texas A&M, Florida State. That's what I meant. Florida State and Texas A&M. Texas A&M, I think, will take them down. I think we're against Robert Williams and Trey Davis look like one of the best front courts in the entire NCAA.
Yeah, we didn't talk about Robert Williams. He's a riser.
Yeah, I
He
think
might have already been there.
I think he's kind of staying right where he is.
He's a double-double machine.
Right, he was right around 14-15s. His rebounding instincts are remarkable. His ability to rebound out of his position, reach over people, but without fouling has been remarkable. I love what I've seen from him. 2 windmill dunks on back-to-back games. They are the identical dunk. He's been explosive, and Trey Davis is a dependable scorer, low post in the college game. Moving down to Villanova's bracket, I think Villanova has that bracket on lock. I look for Texas Tech and Zaire Smith to move forward past their matchup. And then in the final one, I have Clemson moving forward one more, and Duke, with probably Duke beating Kentucky in the final game.
Yeah, we keep thinking Kansas is going to get beat, but I don't know whether Clemson's the one.
Clemson's got him. Clemson's got him.
I don't know.
I think it's easy to see that Kentucky and Gonzaga have the easiest roads
Yes.
to
Michigan's
get
a tough
there.
team.
But then if you see, just how deep Villanova and Duke are, and just how
They're the powerhouses right
how
now.
prevalent they are with their scoring ability, it's just fun to watch.
I'm going with
those
West
teams.
Virginia over there, and I
You think West Virginia over Villanova?
I like they're a veteran team with Villanova. I think they can I don't think they're going to have any fear playing Villanova.
No, they won't.
Obviously, they're playing well in the tournament.
I don't think there's
I think
a
Carter's
chance.
he might be a rising type. I don't know whether he's a pro or not, but
No, he's a riser. He's probably
I think
jump
he
around the
is.
40 range. Maybe he's a late
And,
30s guy now.
Yeah, I think at their best, that they can take Villanova down.
Might be 2 Carters drafted.
That's true. So it's very interesting. We'll see what we got. What, Thursday the games are back, or is it all the way to Friday?
It's to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday again.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday will be interesting. I'll be in New Hampshire to watch those games. Should be exciting.
Was it Cousins weekend?
It's Cousins weekend.
Wow, congratulations.
Well,
Shauna won't be there because
No.
she's in San Diego.
And we won't be watching Virginia, so Cassidy won't have stuff to get excited about, unfortunately. But thank you for joining us on My Wheelhouse. We'll do the picks for medals, see if you can retain your streak.
I'm holding on to it.
Until next time, enjoy the remainder of the madness.